Rete Tartakover, New York 1924, is one of the most widely reproduced miniatures ever played. Its double-check motif is striking, and this 10-move game was played between two of the leading grandmasters of the day. The Caro-Kann won c6, and the French won e6. Both intend to challenge the center at move 2 with d5. The difference is that one c6 doesn't block the queen-bishop. But in the French, the c-pawn takes an active role in fighting for center control by playing to c5. An important move. Capablanca preferred 4 bishop f5 because he didn't see any reason to allow white to play 5 knight f6 and disrupt his pawn structure. 5 queen d3 by Rete is an uncommon move. It's in accordance with an idea that a good plan against the Caro-Kann is to castle queenside and then attack with the pawns on the kingside. 5 queen d3 is the only queenside developing move that guards the e4 knight. e5 opens the position while black trails in development. But after the queen fork to recover the pawn, black was probably thinking that queen e5 is also an effective fork against b2 and e4. But castling must have been a surprise. Now black mustn't play queen e4 because rook e1 pins. Knight 4 runs into a famous checkmating combination. Queen d8 draws the king into a position where it can be double-checked. And in case of king e8, rook d8 is mate. And if black had played 10 king c7, then bishop d8 is a most unusual checkmate. George Koltanowski told great stories, partly because he knew everybody. He was internationally ranked, so he knew all the good players, and in his job as the chess columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle for 50 years, while being famous for blindfold chess exhibitions, he knew all the duffers, too. Here's another Caro-Kann, and Mr. Dunkelblum chose Capablanca's move here, bishop f5. Now, bishop d3 is a very suspect gambit for giving up the center pawn, but some of the best stories arise from some of the worst openings. Accepting the center pawn gives up one tempo for development, and then another. Now, black has to be very careful here. If he plays knight d7, knight d6 is a very thematic and humorous checkmate. So, black instead played an immediate knight f6, which enables white to first double his f-pawns, and then capture the loose bishop on f5. And after black played queen a5, this is the same type of fork we saw in Rete Tartakover, Koltanowski must have been chuckling inwardly when he set a very clever trap. Now he's got, after castling, he's got the rook and the bishop set up in the Rete Tartakover formation, and queen e6 looks so natural for forking the pawn on a2 and the queen on e2. And since white was blindfolded, black must have been thinking after queen d3 that he'd trick the blindfolded player. Maybe the blindfolded player overlooked this pawn on a2, but in fact, we recognize the same piece configuration from the famous Rete game, and the checkmating procedure is the same. If king c8 or king e8, rook d8 is a lovely checkmate. In the Power of the Double Check Part 3, we'll look at the famous smothered mate.